Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm so glad that you're here. What a great crowd. I'm Debbie Lesko. I'm your Maricopa County Supervisor. And for those, well, thank you. And for those of you that don't know anything about me, I used to be your U.S. Congresswoman, and before that, I used to be your state legislator at the state capitol. And Sun City is by far the best place. I love the people that live in Sun City and the surrounding areas. You're so, have great values, very patriotic, and always a great group of people. Well, before we start, I want to thank the rec centers of Sun City for allowing us to use their facility. Are there any board members here? If so, stand up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your service. How about Sun City HOA, SHOA members? Thank you very much. Please stand up if you're director of the SHOA. In the back, thank you very much for everything that you do for our community. And I know I met some Sun City Pride and Sun City Posse folks here. Do you want to stand up? All right, thank you for everything you do. We have a few elected officials here too. I know the Youngtown mayor is here and other elected officials. I don't know where you are, but why don't you, anybody that's elected, stand up, city council people, mayor from Youngtown. And I want to introduce also, there's quite a few staff members here from Maricopa County that are here to help answer questions in addition to the folks that are up on the stage. Could you all stand up? They do a great, great job. Well, you know, the reason for this meeting is because during my time in the state legislature, and now more so as a county supervisor, I've had people from Sun City and the surrounding areas talk to me about their concerns about panhandlers on the corners of the street and in the median along Highway 60, and also about the growing homeless problem that's happening. And so what I decided to do is bring these great people that are on the stage here to help answer your questions. So I'm going to ask them a few questions before we start, and then I'm going to try to have about 30 minutes for questions and answers from the audience. And we're going to have two of my staff members going around with microphones. So when we get to that part, raise your hand, and they'll be going to you to answer your questions. But first of all, I'd like everyone here to introduce themselves. If you would start right here. The Under Sheriff Jeff Gentry, Maricopa County Sheriff Jerry Sheridan couldn't be here, but this is the second in control, and he actually runs most of the operations, right, Jeff? Why don't you explain who you are? Why don't you explain everybody who you are and what you do briefly?
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jeff Gentry. I'm the Under Sheriff, as Vice Chair Lesko indicated. That means I report directly to Sheriff Sheridan, who, by the way, sends his regards today and regrets that he could not be here today. He very much values this kind of gathering, and we want to hear from you what it is that the Sheriff's Office can do to better benefit this community. As the Under Sheriff, I run the day-to-day operations of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, the third largest Sheriff's Office in the United States. Sheriff Sheridan sets the vision and goals for the office, and it's my job to implement that and make sure that we're doing the job that he sets for us to do. So.
Hi, I'm Rachel Mitchell. I'm your Maricopa County Attorney. We are also one of the largest county attorney's offices or prosecution agencies in the country. Whenever you watch the news and you see the first 5 or 10 minutes of the news, if it's a crime that happened within Maricopa County, the chances are good that it's going to come to our office. We handle probably 90+% of the prosecution. And obviously, we're very concerned about safety and, the community members being comfortable in their homes, comfortable in their neighborhoods. And so very excited to be here today. Thank you, Debbie, for organizing this, and it's a great effort.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marcy Flanagan. I'm an assistant county manager at Maricopa County. I have 6 departments that report to me. It's the health and legal services departments, so that includes Office of the Medical Examiner, Correctional Health Services, Public Health, Public Fiduciary, Public Defense Services, and our Human Services departments.
Good morning. I'm Darcy Kober. I'm also an assistant county manager, and I have the infrastructure and regulatory departments at Maricopa County, and that includes planning and development, environmental services, real estate, air quality, flood control district, Department of Transportation, and the facilities department at Maricopa County.
Well, great. I'm glad we did those introductions. I'm going to start with our Maricopa County Attorney's Office, Rachel Mitchell. And Rachel Mitchell has done a great job for all of us citizens in protecting us. But some of the things that I've heard from Sun City residents, there's several concerns. And I'm just going to list a few of them, if you don't mind, Rachel. One of the concerns I've heard is about panhandling on the medians and on the roads. And from a legal perspective, I'd like you to explain what can be done and what can't be done, and if Maricopa County Supervisors can do a panhandling ordinance, or if you think that would get us in legal trouble.
Yeah, panhandling in and of itself is not going to be something that can be criminalized. Homelessness is not something you can criminalize. One of the things that you can do to cut down on panhandling is, number one, don't give them money. And that sounds maybe cold and okay. All right, they all like me. I'm done here, so. There are places, for example, I know in Shea and Scottsdale, where they actually put up signs that remind people that you don't have to give money to panhandlers. Give it instead to charities. There are many, many resources out there for people who need food. And they can go to them. Unfortunately, as the prosecutor in me knows that when you give somebody money, there's a fairly good chance that that money is going someplace that you don't want it to go. And a lot of times that can be to feed a drug addiction. Whereas if they went to some place that had resources for food, then they would be fed and given the things that you want those individuals to have. But that's the number one thing, is to stop giving the money when they are panhandling, and maybe consider putting up some signs to remind your neighbors that there are other ways to help homeless people besides giving them money as they drive by.
Thank you. And so do you think that, Rachel, that if we, I think I went and I thought, oh, maybe Maricopa County should do a panhandling ordinance. In fact, Lisa Gray, the executive director of SHOA, asked if we could do that, and I think we got guidance from your office. And what was your answer?
Yeah, you can restrict people, for example, in a way if they're obstructing traffic or creating a hazard, but for simply standing there and asking for money, you can't do that. There are other ways to look at if their behavior exceeds that under the law, and we can certainly do that, but panhandling in and of itself, you're not going to be able to just criminalize that.
Yeah, when I was in the state legislature, we tried to pass state laws to deal with panhandling, and we're always told it was unconstitutional. So it's a very difficult problem, and that's why we're here talking to you.
And there was also a Ninth Circuit opinion a number of years ago that got cut back a little bit, but it really did restrain, tie our hands on what we can do as well. So.
Yeah, yes, thank you. One of the other things that has come up, and I've gotten complaints about, is homeless people defecating on the sidewalk and taking showers at the golf course, I guess in the sprinklers. And so tell us what can be done about that legally, from a legal standpoint.
Legally, I'm guessing that the golf courses are privately owned, maybe not by an individual, but by an entity. So those individuals can be trespassed from private property. You can make that a criminal act where if they are told to leave and they don't leave, then they can be charged with trespass. And one thing I want to let you know is if it's within the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office jurisdiction, so it's unincorporated areas, those, even though those are misdemeanors, those will come to my office. If it's within a city, it'll go to the city prosecutor, but if it's within the unincorporated areas, it'll come to my office for misdemeanor prosecution. So that's one thing you can do. In terms of defecating in public, we have been looking at people and charging them with, for example, a public nuisance type statute. We don't have anything specific to that, so we could work on that as far as an ordinance, but there is a tool for us to use, and that is public nuisance, and we have been using that.
Yeah, and if there's anything, Rachel, that you think that the Board of Supervisors could vote on to help you and the Sheriff's Office, I'd really appreciate that, because I'm willing to do it, because this is just a growing problem, and it's sad. It's a sad problem for the people that are enduring this and on drugs or, whatever's happening in their life. And me, I have sympathy for people and I want to help them, but also I know that if I hand out and give them money, that's going to hurt the problem. And so I think the last thing I want to ask you about, Rachel, is how about, I've got complaints about homeless people loitering around the Fry's food store at 107th Avenue in Grand. I've gone there myself with my 96-and-a-half-year-old mother and was I have to admit, I was kind of nervous because I was like, well, I don't know if these folks are on drugs. I don't know if they're going to be violent. It's kind of scary. What can be done?
Well, I can tell you, I've worked with Fry's in the past regarding organized retail crime, and they've been very responsive. Not all businesses are. And so one of the things that Fry's can do, in my understanding, and Jeff can speak to this, it has been doing is reporting them and having them trespass. That also is private property. And if they understand that that type of activity is impacting their business such that people don't feel safe going there, and so if you want to let the management know, hey, this is really uncomfortable for me, to encourage them. But my understanding is that they have been reporting some trespasses, and they should continue to, because I tell businesses when we do organized retail crime education with them, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And so we definitely want to work with businesses to make sure that people are not driving legitimate customers away because they're loitering, possibly doing drug deals, et cetera.
And there's one more question I had. I've also had reports of homeless people being in people's backyard. I assume that would be trespassing, but can you confirm that?
That would be trespassing, and because this is Sun City, I feel the urge to say, no, you can't shoot them just for that. I know that question's coming. So no, you can't shoot them for trespassing, but you can call the police and report them. I get asked that every time I come out here, so I know what you think. Right, Jeff?
That's funny. You didn't know your Maricopa County attorney had such a great sense of humor, did you? Next, I'd like to ask the Under Sheriff, Jeff Gentry, some questions, and it's related to the questions I already asked Rachel Mitchell, but What is the sheriff's office doing in these situations? Like, how is it working with the Fry's food store? Have they been good to work with? Are they reporting it? What should people here do if they have any of these instances or they're concerned about homeless people or panhandling? Who should they call? And what have you been doing, and what can you do?
Well, that's a lot.
I know. I put it all in one question. Sorry.
So we have a great relationship with the Fry's food store. We've responded out there dozens of times, hundreds of times. I've got statistics here that I can share about how many times we've responded to a trespassing call out in the Sun City area that I can share with you in a little bit. We take private property rights very seriously. Right? So the Fry's food store is a private property, and it's incumbent upon the owner of that property to lodge a complaint if somebody is trespassing. And so when they call, and they do call, we will respond out and investigate and take appropriate action and make an arrest if we need to. With regard to panhandling, gosh darn it, panhandling is legal, right? It is protected by, the Constitution, and Sheriff Sheridan espouses all the time that he is a constitutional sheriff. We are going to follow the Constitution. And those rights that are protected by the Constitution, we're going to protect the people that exercise those rights. But there is a limit. Where panhandling can be a problem or can be illegal is when it becomes aggressive. So if somebody refuses to take no for an answer, or have you ever been at a stoplight and they come up with a spray bottle and spray your windshield and start wiping it and then demand money? That's aggressive. That can be a crime. And if you call, we will respond and we will take appropriate action. We will investigate. Every situation that we respond to is unique, and we'll investigate. We'll talk. And if you want to press charges, you're going to have to fill out a witness statement and be willing to go testify. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to speak for the county attorney, but sometimes that's a problem. Like people defecating on the street. Who wants to go testify in court about somebody you saw do something like that on the street? Who wants to collect that evidence? We'll take a picture.
But Jeff, so tell us, what would somebody do if they saw someone defecating on a sidewalk, or if they were in their backyard, or if they were camping on a sidewalk, which I believe you could do something about that. What should they do? They need to call the sheriff's office, right?
You call the sheriff's office. Our dispatch center is probably the best place to call. I give you that number if you want to write it down, if everybody knows it. I don't know if we can put it up on the screen.
Is that the non-emergency number?
The non-emergency number.
Okay, so everybody on the back table, there is a flyer called Homeless Resources and Response. And on the very front, it gives you two numbers to call. One is the sheriff's non-emergency number, and one is the Maricopa County number that you can call. And inside this flyer is all the different departments and what they do depending on what the situation is. So make sure you pick up one of these so you know who to call. But I just want to confirm, if somebody's sitting on a sidewalk, blocking people going by, you can do something about it, right?
We can.
And if somebody's in a backyard, you can do something about it, right?
We can.
And if they're trespassing on a golf course trying to take a shower, these people should call you, right? Or not you personally, but the sheriff's department.
You'd be surprised how many people do call me personally. But yeah, call the sheriff's office. We'll respond. We'll take action. We're going to investigate. We'll trespass. We'll serve somebody with an official trespass notice. And if they come back, we can arrest them.
Yeah, this is good info, and I want to keep moving along so that we have enough time for questions, because that's usually the best part. I learn the most on questions and answers. And so next, I'm going to talk to Marcy Flanagan. Marcy, as she introduced herself, she's a assistant county manager, and she has a whole bunch of divisions underneath her. But Marcy, can you explain to our constituents what can be done? How do we help the homeless people? Like what resources are there, and what is your role?
So what my departments do, we're more on the service end. Darcy's going to talk a little bit about the enforcement that her departments do, but my departments work on the service end. So we work with community organizations, with local jurisdictions, and County Attorney Mitchell stated that the organizations that instead of giving money to panhandlers, the organizations that you do give money to, those are the organizations we work with. So we will go out when there are reports of encampments, and sometimes those reports come from individuals like all of you. On that same brochure that Vice Chair Lesko pointed out, there's a phone number on there. There's also a website. You can go on and fill out a form, give us as much information as possible. And we have a program called Hand in Hand, and that program will go out and work with the individuals experiencing homelessness, offer them sheltering services, sometimes temporary or permanent housing. We provide transportation. We work with them to get food, medical care, all of the things that all of us that want to help these individuals want to provide. So we go out and we start speaking to those individuals, trying to learn more about them, what their personal circumstances, and we connect them with resources. We provide a lot of education and case management after we get them into those resources to ensure that they're successful and hopefully that they don't end up back out on the street. That's the end goal for us in the departments that I oversee.
And so, Marcy, I've been told by the mayor from Youngtown is here, and he's helped try to get the people out of the riverbed between Youngtown and El Mirage. And his experience, if I'm not mistaken, Mike, is that a lot of the people didn't want help. They refused help. And what has been your experience, working with these folks? What do a lot of them just refuse help? And if you offer them help, do they have to get into substance abuse programs if they have problems?
So that's a great question, and we get asked that a lot. I think their perception is that they don't want help. The reality is it takes them building trust. It takes our staff members several encounters usually with the individuals because they worry about it turning into a criminalized, action or asking them to do something that they're not ready to do, like go into treatment. So really our number one goal is to get them off the street. If they want treatment, we certainly encourage that and we talk about treatment and when they're ready to go to treatment, but the number one goal is to get them out of those washes, to get them into sheltering, even if it's temporary sheltering. So I would say, I think on the initial, do you want help? There probably is a much larger percentage, I would say, that refuse it initially. But once we go back out and we re-engage with them, they are willing to go and to, get to services. Now, is there a small percentage that that's the lifestyle they prefer is to be out on the street? Unfortunately, there are those, but that really is the minority of the ones that we encounter, especially when we work with them over a period of time or after several encounters, that they start to recognize our staff, start to feel comfortable telling our staff where they can meet them to come back and have a conversation. Sometimes they worry about they have a pet or they have belongings and what can they do with those belongings. So it takes us a little bit longer to make sure we get them in the right shelter that either can accommodate their pet or accommodate them being able to pack up all their things and take it with them. So it's kind of a long answer, but it's complicated, and each case can be individual. But by and large, I think most of them do want to get off the street. They're just hesitant if it's just a one-time offer and interaction.
That's really good. That's a good understanding. You know, this is very complicated, and I'm sure most of you are like me. I'm sympathetic. I mean, we're dealing with human beings. We don't know what's happened to them in their lives, and so it's a sad state of affairs. But so we want to help. I want to help, and I'm very thankful for the workers at Maricopa County and their partners. There's some people that are just good at that. They're good at going out and helping people, and so I want to applaud them. Next, I want to go on to Darcy Kober. Darcy is also Assistant County Manager at Maricopa County, and Darcy has a lot of different agencies under her as well, and I think of one of them, you can explain it more, but I think one of them is flood control. And for those of you, don't think flood control has anything to do with homelessness, because you're like, why does flood control have to do with homelessness? Well, because of encampments, homeless encampments, and I think we have homeless encampments that are in the riverbeds. Like I said before, there's homeless folks that live down in the riverbed where Vulcan Materials is, between El Mirage and Youngtown, and then of course they come up and they walk into Sun City and Youngtown and that type of thing. And so what do your departments do, Darcy, to deal with these problems?
Our departments do a few different things. Flood control, since you mentioned that, we'll start with flood. We have maintenance staff, and we also have an MCSO officer, Roger Mancayo, who I think knows most of you in this room, or many of you in this room, because he works really closely with folks in this area. They respond to complaints or concerns for homeless encampments in the flood structures, on or in the flood structures or floodways, and so they'll go out and we always lead with services, as Marcy mentioned, and so we work really closely with the hand-in-hand program. We'll have our staff go out with Marcy's staff, and we'll make contact with folks in those encampments, and so we always lead with outreach. And then in those floodways, and also in our Department of Transportation, or McDOT, right-of-ways and also roads and medians, if there's encampments there, then those departments can address those encampments through cleanups. And so following that outreach process, we go out and we bring crews out and we actually do cleanups of those encampments. And so that front-end outreach assists us in trying to get folks to move on and also take their personal belongings with them, but often there are things left behind, trash and litter, sometimes hazardous materials. And so our staff and our cleanup crews, in addition to sometimes subcontractors that we need for some of those hazardous items, will come out and do those cleanups then of those areas. In addition to that, we have environmental services and planning and development respond to complaints for code violations on private property throughout Maricopa County. And so planning and development responds to complaints in unincorporated county on private property. And then environmental services can respond to nuisance complaints on any property in Maricopa County, unincorporated or incorporated. And so they will, they also have a similar process coordinated where they will lead with outreach, and then after that they'll actually work with property owners to get the private property areas cleaned up from those encampments.
Yeah, that's really helpful, and a lot of your staff is here, and a lot of your staff underneath you is here as well. One of the things I want to reiterate again is, before you go home today, pick up one of these guides. It says Homeless Resources and Response. It has all the different phone numbers inside and on the front of who to call and what to do. I represent in Maricopa County 960,000 constituents. They're all in the West Valley, including Sun City, Sun City West, Sun City Grand, Peoria, Glendale, Buckeye, Litchfield Park, you name it. It's basically the entire West Valley. And for those of you that don't know, because I never assume people know, if somebody lives in a city, like I live in the city of Peoria, then the city of Peoria deals with these homelessness and panhandling problems. But here in Sun City West, it's not a chartered city. Even though it's called Sun City, it's not a chartered city. Maricopa County is what handles all of your services. And so here we have the different folks that stood up in the front, but also we handle your roads, and Jesse Gutierrez, the director of Maricopa County Department of Transportation, is also here, our head of environmental services, planning and zoning, and flood control. They're all here to answer your questions, although the topic today is homelessness and panhandling. And so we're at right about 9:30, which I think is a good time to start. We have 30 minutes for questions and answers, and then why don't we begin there? Where's my staff? Okay, so we have Bill Leal. Bill is my Deputy Chief of Staff, and he has one of the microphones, and we have Keith Fort, who's my Chief of Staff, back there. He's back there, and he has one of the microphones, and they're just going to walk around, raise your hand if you have a question, and we're going to get right to it.
Hello. My name is Dr. Ferretta. I just wanted to let people know that homeless veterans are homeless because they choose to be. Every VA in the country has a HUD-VASH program that will help them, put them in medical care, get them temporary housing, and then get them into housing. So if you see a homeless veteran out there with this sign, all he has to do is get a hold of the VA, and they will set that up for him, or her, I'm sorry. And then my question was about the Arco gas station at 103rd. They actually have built an encampment on the property there, and I'm just wondering, is there anything legally that can be done because of it being private property and them allowing them to do it?
And I'm just going to let whoever on this panel thinks that they should answer the question just chip in.
Well, I'll field that. So it would be up to the owners of the property to make a complaint. So a gas station would be private property, and I don't want to preach to the choir here, but if you don't like what's going on at that gas station, don't buy gas there, right? So, or make a complaint to the owners of the property and say that you're intimidated or there's a problem with what's going on there, and ask them to call and make a complaint. But it is incumbent upon the owner of the property to do that.
Yeah, and again, this is where you can help, okay? So you can help if you go to that Arco or any other place and there's a bunch of homeless people or people loitering around and you're uncomfortable. First of all, if you're uncomfortable, like you think they're violent, you call the sheriff's department, right? But the other thing is talk to the people inside Arco, because they might not know. They're just staff working there. They don't know what to do, right? And so give them this number. Say, you know what? If you don't complain about these people loitering around and call the sheriff's department doesn't know that it's happening. So we rely on you guys, when you see something, to talk to the manager. If it's private property like that, talk to the management or the staff inside. Say, I want you to call the sheriff's department and get these people off of your property, or I'm not going to do business here anymore. You have to do that to the Fry's food store, any other place like that. So it's up to you to do it.
Vice Chair Lesko, if I could just add to that also, if the folks on that property, if it's an actual encampment and there's junk, trash, debris, and other things like that, that would be a code violation. You can also call that in with that same number that's in this flyer, or there's a QR code that you can scan to report that as an encampment, and it could be a zoning violation. And so our staff in planning and development would go out also. We would make contact with the folks on site as well as the owner of the property to let them know that they need to correct that piece of the violation also.
In the independent newspaper, weekly paper, there's 2 to 4 car thefts per week. A lot of it is around that Fry's grocery store in Grand, and then the rest of it's in Youngtown. Is anything being done about it? Because there is no auto theft separate division anymore. So what's being done about it?
I didn't hear your question. Is it auto theft?
Auto theft.
Oh, auto theft, okay. I think that's
2
probably
to 4
sheriff.
per week, according to the police report in the Independent.
We are aware that thefts happen. We do have deputies out on patrol. We do respond and take those reports. We have had some success in making arrests for auto thefts. It's true, we don't necessarily have a specific unit that deals with auto theft anymore. However, lots of our deputies are trained to deal with that, and they do it all the time. And we investigate each and every case that's reported to us.
Jeff, how many sheriff deputies do you have that work in Sun City?
I'm being told that right now there are 4 that specifically work out
Yeah.
here.
And I know people always say, we want more sheriff's coverage, and I do too, but there's a limited amount of money, and just like in any jurisdiction. So your property taxes, I try to work hard to make sure your property tax rate isn't increased, and if the budget goes up, then your property taxes are going to go up, right? And so we try to do as much coverage as possible, and last year we gave salary increases to the sheriff's department because the sheriff, so what I've been told is a lot of the sheriff's officers get stolen by the cities, the surrounding cities, because the cities pay more, and so we're trying to keep up with the salary as best as we can without raising your property taxes.
If I may clarify real quick, just because we have 4 deputies that are assigned to patrol the area, that doesn't mean that's all that's available to respond. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if this is a good time to talk about Proposition 413 as well.
That would be great.
So right now, we have 1/5 of 1 cent sales tax in Maricopa County that goes to support basically public safety. A huge portion of it goes to the sheriff's office in terms of detention, et cetera. That sales tax is set to sunset in 2027. So in November, there's going to be a proposition on your ballot called Proposition 413. What 413 does, it's not an additional tax, it's an extension of the tax that we already have, 1/5 of 1 cent. And that's going to be critical for the Board of Supervisors in terms of whether public safety is going to be funded that way, continue to be funded that way, or if they're going to have to find the funds somewhere else. So please be aware of that Proposition 413.
Yeah, that's good. Next question.
Yes, I live on 111th in Peoria, and I had a homeless woman that had her belongings, and she was napping. I called our posse, who said that there was nothing they could do, and she had a right to be there. It was a public street, but maybe I don't understand the definition of loitering, or, I just didn't think that that was right, that she could just lay right in front of that church and just do her thing.
Well, so if we're called on that, we're going to send a deputy out and investigate. And if she's on private property, if she's on church property, the posse's right. There's not much we can do about that if they allow the person to be there. If they're blocking a sidewalk, though, okay, we can contact them and move her along. Or connect her with some kind of services like the deputy county managers we're talking about. There are many things we can do. That's probably not a situation where we're just going to show up and make an arrest, right?
Again, if they were they on the church property? Blocking the sidewalk. Well, then that would be something your sheriff's deputies could go out on, right? If they were just laying on the sidewalk?
Yeah, laying on the sidewalk, camping on the sidewalk, blocking the sidewalk. We can respond and move them right along.
So call the number on here next time you see that. Thank you. Next question.
Hi, I'm Mary Lynn Schroyer. I would just like to point out the one thing that hasn't been mentioned is there is such a small amount of housing available that needs to be available for the homeless. And as a society, we need to get that corrected. And I think I'm correct in that. It's a small percentage, correct? What we need.
I think that's your question.
Yeah, I'm going to ask one of my staff who actually brought the stats, and she can share them with you. I want to share how much money that Maricopa County has put towards housing affordability in the past few years, because the number, I believe, is impressive.
Yes, hi, I'm Tamara. I am the Director of Human Services at Maricopa County. And thanks to the Board of Supervisors, we were able to have $128 million go to affordable housing. And throughout Maricopa County, that helped with over 3,500 affordable housing units. But you're right, there is a severe housing shortage across the country. It really started in 2008 with the Great Recession. We weren't able to build as many houses to keep up with the demand, and we never really caught up. So we're still far behind, but the Board of Supervisors have been prioritizing building more affordable housing, and we're hopeful that we can continue to do that and find more resources for that.
So what, is there places that people here, if they're concerned about that, can donate? Or, you know, like, what do they do? Call the number on here and ask you, like, where can we donate? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
For the development of affordable housing, it's really about looking at what your zoning is, supporting things that are happening at the Arizona Department of Housing. We do have a housing trust fund that had $350 million or $300 million allocated to it that's helping to build more shelter, more transitional housing, and more affordable housing. We really need all of it because while we have about 4,700 shelter beds, on any given night, there's over 9,700 people that are experiencing homelessness across Maricopa County. So we still have a shortage of resources, and so sometimes that's where your frustration is coming from, is the length of time it takes to get somebody connected to a shelter bed or get somebody into that housing unit. It can sometimes take 90 days or longer because of that shortage. But if you want to support the Arizona Housing Coalition, they have a lot of information on there about how you can support affordable housing in your area.
Okay,
Next question.
Yes, thank you for coming today. We really appreciate that you're taking the time to listen to us. This message mostly is directed to the sheriff and to the attorney. A good majority of the people I see that are homeless are not 55 and older, which leads me to why are they here? And I'll just leave that there. The other more poignant is who is supplying their drugs in our area, and what are we doing about it?
If I knew where all the drugs were coming from, we wouldn't have that problem at all. We have task force that work on where drugs come from. We try and get to the root cause of the drugs. You know, a lot of drugs come across into Arizona from the southern border. That has dropped off significantly over the last year or so. But it's still available. People are still getting their drugs. And we have a street crimes unit that does come out, and they do stings, they do operations out in this area. You may not see them, right? But they are there, they are working, and we do try and curb that problem as much as we possibly can. Why there are folks that are homeless that are under 55 in I'm guessing you're saying that you have to be 55 or older to live here, right? I think that's 55 or older to own a house or move in and live in one of the houses out here. Not necessarily if you're living on the street. I don't think that rule really counts. But I don't know why somebody would pick this area specifically to come and be homeless. You would think in the summertime it would be very uncomfortable to be out in this area homeless. And I wish I had some answers with that. When we get calls about people that are homeless, we do have a co-responder program. and we send our co-responders out, and they talk to people, and we try and connect them with services throughout the county. The many services that are mentioned, some of the services that you can get a hold of on the flyer, and we will help connect and get people hopefully to make a better decision about where to go and be for their lifestyle.
You know, to add to that, in terms of this being a border state, DEA's stats show that in 2022, 2023, of all of the fentanyl seized across the United States, over half of it was seized in Arizona. So we are the distribution hub for the country of a lot of the fentanyl. The other piece is fentanyl, because it's an opioid, but it's a synthetic opioid, is incredibly cheap. And so instead of paying $10 or $20 for a rock of methamphetamine, it's maybe less than $1 per pill. So we have a lot of people, and it's highly addictive. And so we have a lot of people that are still under the lingering effects of that, although the border situation has improved. But understand, a lot of the fentanyl comes through legal ports of entry, but it's smuggled in. One of the things that we do in my office is when people are charged with lower level of offenses such as trespass, and you look at them and say, but for a substance abuse addiction, but for a mental health issue, they probably wouldn't even be in the criminal justice system. So the Board of Supervisors has been very generous to help us fund an ongoing diversion program. And what that diversion program does is it allows them, before they have a conviction on their record, to go to treatment so that they can come out of the criminal justice system without that label of a conviction, but also to receive a very robust treatment program so that hopefully we can get them back in society off drugs.
All right, next question.
Thank you very much for being here. I know myself and all the other people appreciate your time and efforts. However, when I look at the situation and what you're presenting, what I'm seeing is a victim who has a compound fracture. And what we are doing is offering some bandages, possibly a pillow, maybe a blanket. And is that truly addressing the reason why this person is in that situation? And you're giving us resources for us to call to have somebody come in and deal with the problem. And the other question is, how much money is actually being funneled into all of these multiple homelessness help programs? God forbid that we become Seattle and/or California.
Yeah, this is a very complicated issue. Does anybody have any comments on that?
I will just put in there, you're right that the problem is much deeper than just homelessness, that we've mentioned it on a few of the comments, that it is mental health issues at times, it is substance use issues at times, which tend to happen before they experience the homelessness. It can be what led them to homelessness is not having treatment, to starting to use substances. A lot of times, unfortunately, we see it's a combination of both. The programs that are available, most of these programs are funded through access. So part of what our team does, it's important to get them connected to resources, to get them on access, to get them so they can start. They sometimes don't even know that they're eligible to receive these services. So for Maricopa County, the majority of the funding that we have is just for a couple of staff members. That's really all we fund. What we do is partner with nonprofit organizations and other organizations that receive funding through donations, through Medicare, Medicaid. Sometimes, a gentleman mentioned it, through Veterans Affairs. We work with all of those organizations to try to find the best resources and really get to the root of the problem, because you're right, it's not just I don't have a place to sleep. It goes much deeper than that. And so we really do try to address those, but it's a serious problem. And, you know, our team works really hard to try to figure out what the root of that problem is so it doesn't lead to them being back out on the street or in our jail system.
Yeah, thank you. Next question.
Hi, there seems to be an increase in assaults this past year or so, and I wondered if that's from the homeless crowd.
I'm not exactly aware of an increase in assaults. Our calls for service have remained fairly steady with regard to that, but I don't believe that we could say that any kind of increase in assaults or assaults in general are a result of homelessness.
Okay, next question.
I just want to echo the sentiment of the lady she said about Seattle. I moved here from Seattle. I lived there for 35 years. After 2005, the homeless situation got worse and worse and worse, and all they did to try to alleviate it was give more money into the programs. 20 different departments of the city of Seattle had homeless part of that. The one part you haven't mentioned today is 70% of the homeless are either mentally ill or they're drug addicts. You have to take a serious response to stop that, to get homeless off the street.
One of the things I would say also about Seattle and some of the other cities that are having this problem is it's not just that. You had a combination of legalization of drugs. You had district attorneys, as they call them, county attorneys, as we call them, who were not enforcing the law. You had city councils who were not supporting the police or funding the police. So it was a systemic failure that led to Seattle and Portland and San Francisco and Los Angeles. And I agree with you. I don't want this to become Seattle. And what I would say to you, and I'm not up for election this year, so this isn't, I'm not asking for your vote. Keep that in mind when you're voting the ballot. You know, we're all focused on the top of the ballot, who's running for president, who's running for senator, but it is the lower part of the ballot that affects your daily lives way more than the top of the ballot. And so keep that in mind, that you want people who are going to uphold the law and who are going to support the police.
Okay, I got the next question to your left, stage.
Hi, I've had a couple of incidents where behind Starbucks on 107th, U.S. Bank has put a kiosk in there where you can drive through, deposit money, take money out. And every time I've had twice where I've called the posse because they're camped out right next to the kiosk. So I don't feel comfortable. It's like they're in their living room. I don't feel comfortable driving through there. I have to go to 99th and Bell. And yesterday, the gas station on 103rd, my husband and I were in the car. Somebody was watching, and finally, after about 3 times, the guy just, because my husband eyeballed him and eyeballed him down. And I was just wondering, I have a question. You said on that brochure, if you see something, call. Now, when I call the posse, the rules are, if they're not aggressive, well, they're not aggressive, but who do I call not to jam up the posse or your staff? If I see something like that with the kiosk on 107th, the U.S. Bank, who do I call first?
That's what we're there for. Call us. Call the sheriff's office. That's not an emergency call. It's not something I'm going to tell you to call 911 about. If you're being attacked, if they're being aggressive, you can call 911 and we'll get there.
Yeah, the question was, are we able to pass out these brochures with the phone numbers on it in front of Fry's or other places on a Saturday? Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll get my staff to go out on Saturdays and we'll pass out flyers. You guys didn't know you're working on Saturdays, did you? Anyway, no, I think that's a good idea. But again, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff, if this is a private property, right, a Starbucks, and there's some kind of bank kiosk there, is that ATM? Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay. All right. So again, wouldn't this be a case, it's private property, so you'd call, like you could complain to the place and say, call the sheriff's department, we don't want these people trespassing, and if it's an encampment, then Darcy, your folks take care of it, right? So,
Yes.
good, there we go.
One thing I think that we need to say here is don't engage with individuals, don't take care of it yourself. Same thing with, for example, organized retail crime, if you see it. You don't know what these people are carrying. I don't want to vilify all of homeless people and put them in a, lump them in as the same category, but just be careful and not engage yourself, because we have had individuals hurt who have done that. And I think it's also fair to point out that homeless people are also victims of a lot of crime too. They are preyed upon, so I don't want to, like I said, paint them with a broad brush, but just do be careful.
All right, next question over here.
So you guys talked a lot about how panhandling in and of itself is not illegal, but aggressive panhandling could be. Under what point does panhandling become aggressive under law?
So it'd be aggressive, if the person that's trying to get money from you refuses to take no for an answer and they continue to pester you, right? Or if they follow you, like I mentioned earlier, I've experienced myself actually where I've come up to a stop sign or a stoplight and somebody's tried to clean my windshield, and they actually spray something on my windshield and try and wipe it off and demand money. That's aggressive, right? Any kind of intimidating, threatening behaviors at all, it's not illegal to hold a sign and ask for money and then walk along. But when it goes beyond that, it's a problem.
Yeah, we're gonna, I think you have a good point, but we've got people with their hands up with the microphones.
Got the next question
So
over
who's
here.
next?
Over here.
I don't know. Oh, there you go.
Hi. I live right behind Fry's, and I see a lot of what's going on. And let me give you some background on myself. I used to live and work in Palo Alto, California, and I worked with the homeless there. 80% in that area do not want help. They can have all of the services and they just sit there. They don't use them. And it's just a waste of money. And you brought up LA and the homeless there, and most people know that they have a huge fraud that has taken place with the homeless funds there, hundreds of millions of dollars. So that issue has to be addressed, and make sure that these services actually have the results, the real results, not numbers on a page, but you're actually helping these people. My next question, or a question that I came here to address was, why are they dumping all of the sex offenders, the pedophiles in Sun City? You get on the internet and you look at the map, and Sun City is completely red with all of these pedophiles. These are convicted pedophiles that have gone to prison and come out, and now they have additional skills that lead to the problems that we're dealing with in Sun City, especially behind Fry's. Because if you look at the map, it's surrounded by pedophiles.
Does anybody have any comment on that? I mean, I assume it's because that there's not kids here, but I don't know. I don't know the answer. Does anybody know? No.
They brought it to other neighborhoods.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good point. I'll have to investigate that further. But I would guess it's because there's not children that live here. So, yeah, would be my
They're
guess.
also going to be looking for, low-cost housing, because if they've been to prison, obviously getting a job to pay for, anything but low-cost housing is going to be difficult.
The question is, could put a cap on the number of sex offenders that live in Sun City?
There is a statute that caps for like an apartment building, and I can't quote it off the top of my head to you, but there's not one for like per area, for, bigger area in the law right now.
Oh, well, that's something I'm going to write down. We'll have to talk to the state legislators, see if they can change that. I don't know. Okay, all right. Who's next? And then it's now 9:59, so we're getting close to the published end time.
So real quickly, what's the plan for the next year? We need some positive, constructive action to keep this from getting worse.
Well, thank you for the question. I mean, I think a lot of it actually, you guys can help. You guys can help. And there's a few situations here where we said if it's private property, talk to the people that are in the management or the people working in there and complain and say, I don't want these people here. And you can call the sheriff's department because they're trespassing. Now, my understanding is if they're not being violent or anything, tell me if I'm wrong, Jeff, then you just tell them to leave, right? Now, if they're being violent or something like that, you can arrest them. But otherwise, you just tell them to move on. You can't be there. And I would think that after a while, if these people are getting pestered all the time, they're not going to be there.
We can make an arrest. Once we issue somebody a trespass order, if they're caught there again, we can make an arrest, and we have made arrests. And we will continue to make arrests.
And what, all right.
Well,
these are the folks to hear.
We do show up.
Yeah. All right. And so I think what you've heard, and this is going to be an ongoing problem. I understand where you're coming from. I live near 67th Avenue and Cactus, and when I drive from I-17 over to 67th Avenue on Cactus Road, there's like encampments of homeless people right on Cactus Road. And it's very frustrating. I share your frustration of, why can't we just do this? Why can't we just do that? And that's why I brought these people here so they could tell you what constitutionally can be done, what legally can be done. And sometimes our hands are tied because of previous court cases and that type of thing. But believe me, I want to do as much as we can to help, because I know that it's a huge concern. It's a growing concern. It's a sad concern. I mean, I don't know if you folks have seen these homeless people, but they're like, some of them are just like this, they're like so, I assume, drugged out that it's just a sad state of humanity, and I want to help. Now, there's a whole bunch of you that have your hands up. Are we doing one or two last questions, and then we're wrapping it up? So that I don't want to tell these people they're going to be here longer than I advertised.
No, ma'am. I was going to make this, just due to time constraints, I've got one more. This lady's had her hand up first. She's been very patient, and I know as many of you have. So make this the last question, and then offer any closing comments to the panel.
Good morning, my name is Leslie, and my question is regarding squatters who technically are homeless. So if you take the time to drive from here over to 111th and go south on 111th from Grand, I am concerned about the number of properties who are not being kept up. I applaud Showa and the Day of Caring, but that's 5 homes that they may be able to de-weed, make sure they haven't been abandoned, like the Acuity Hospital, that the homeless moved in, broke windows. I am concerned about my property values and the squatters, and I am concerned that homelessness is and/or squatters that are moving into these homes. We have lots of homes that are not necessarily abandoned, but we don't know that. And if you just look on 111th between Grand and California, you'll be amazed at how many are in really bad shape. And that is a major thoroughfare for us to go various places. So I'm concerned. I need help from Maricopa County. Showa needs help from Maricopa County. I know it takes time. I'm not suggesting that the time be erased, but there's somehow got to be some assistance for Showa and those compliance officers to identify those homes that are potential for squatters. Because in Arizona, if squatters get a hold, you can't get them out. And that is a big concern for me as a condo chair of 27 units. We've had squatters.
Let me ask you a question. Is this on the Sun City side or the Youngtown side of 111?
Sun City side.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any input on that?
Yeah, so if you can provide those addresses and what the concern is, we'd be happy to open code compliance cases on those and take a look at those properties to see if there's violations, including if they are like open and vacant and unsecured. We will work with property owners to try to get those secured. It can be challenging in some instances when the property owner may be deceased and the property's not necessarily in the hands of someone, but even then we work with the public fiduciary office to try to identify next of kin and things like that. And so it can take a little time depending on what the ownership situation is on those, but the best thing to do is to call those into us, or you can, there's a information, their phone number there for the Planning and Development Department. Give us a call. We'll take a look at those properties and see what we can do.
And what number in this flyer, like we have Department of Transportation, Environmental Services, do we call the number, do they call the number on the front that says
Correct.
County Departments?
Yes,
call
for
the
other
number
county
on the
departments, if that's our call center. Our call center for Environmental Services and Planning and Development is that phone number along with the sheriff's number right on the front of that flyer.
Okay.
And I would just add also, and maybe Sheriff Gentry, you're welcome to add, or Under Sheriff Gentry, sorry. But we also work with property owners if it is a vacant property and they're not maybe in town or other things, they can sign an authority to arrest form where we can put that on file then with MCSO, so that if they're not present, MCSO then can still assist in arresting folks off of those properties that are not supposed to be there.
You know, before we wrap up, I just want to say what a great job. So as you know, I've been in the state legislature, then in Congress, now at the county, and I've been very impressed with the county workers and the way that the county operates their business. I've been very impressed with the sheriff's department. Sheriff Jerry Sheridan does a fantastic job. He's always out into the community and really trying to help. I know him personally. I also am very appreciative of our county attorney, Rachel Mitchell. Her past before she was the main top person was she did sex offenders and that type of thing, so she knows a lot about that, and she does an excellent job. And these two ladies to my left, Marcy and Darcy, they really do a great job at Marcy and Darcy, I know, I love it. I get mixed up too. The other day I was talking to Marcy about something that Darcy does, and she was very nice and she listens to me, and then at the end she said, okay, I'll tell Darcy. And I was like, oh, you know, I mess up too. But, you know, the employees at Maricopa County, a lot of them have worked there 15, 20 years. And so that tells you something, right? It tells you that it's a culture that's good, a good culture, and we try to treat our staff very well. And so I don't know if there's some closing remarks all of you want to do, but before we do the closing remarks, a woman from, I assume, the rec centers here at Sun City wanted me to announce that they're having sales at their clubs right here at the Sundial, and they're selling their stuff today. And so I'm going to go over there and do some shopping myself. They said it could be cash or credit card. And so I'm going to go over and see what they got. But she asked me to talk about that. Also, my office bought a whole bunch of food. So, you know, please take food when you go out, and please take some of these brochures and give them to your neighbors or whatever. And also, I have if you don't get my newsletter that's emailed, we have sign-up sheets for emails in the back. And I see your hands, but we're done with the question part of it, so I'm sorry. If you have questions after, come up and we can be here for a little while. And also, you can call this number with your questions. Do you want to start, Jeff?
Yeah,
Closing
thank you.
comments?
Thank you. You know, in a time when other places are trying to defund the police, and, you know, there's a sentiment that they don't want police around anytime, the questions that you guys asked and the statements that you've made tell me that you want to see more of us. And message received, right? We've held a town hall, our own sheriff's office town hall in different jurisdictions every quarter throughout last year, and we're going to have one in Tonopah coming up, I think, on the 31st of March. And we're gonna make sure that we have one out here in Sun City and Sun City West as well. Come and express that same sentiment, but believe me, I hear you loud and clear, and we're going to do all we can to be visible in your areas. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, I heard a lot of people say that we call the posse, and I want to just throw a shout out to the Sun City posse and the Sun City West posse. Thank you. Those people are all volunteers, and they do the job that we get paid to do, right? And I can't thank them enough. They're a very robust posse out here. And if you think that that's something you want to do, go volunteer with the posse and help out. Help us help you. So thank you for being here. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you, Debbie Lesko, for organizing this. You know, one thing that I want to say about the Board of Supervisors, Debbie is one of 5 supervisors, and they cover very large areas of Maricopa County, and they are very mindful of public safety. So I never worry about my office being appropriately funded. They're concerned about the sheriff's office as well, to make sure that we can keep the community safe. That is a top priority for Debbie and the other supervisors. If you want to have more information about what the county attorney's office is doing, go to our website, Maricopa County Attorney, one word, .org. It's not .gov. And you can sign up for our newsletter. It's a once-a-month newsletter. We promise not to bombard your email once a month. And you can find out about, for example, shred-a-thons that we're having, trainings on how to avoid being defrauded, et cetera. So we're about prevention as much as we are about prosecution. You can also sign up on that website for something called Citizens Academy. That's a class that we offer every couple months or so, where you can come down. It's the better part of a day. It's not quite a full day. I think it's 10 to 3, and we offer a lunch, and we'll just walk you through a day in the life of the county attorney's office. And we've gotten rave reviews about it, so I would really urge you to sign up for that if you can come. Thank you.
I just want to thank all of you for coming today. Thank you for your questions. Most important for, I think, the county in general is for you all to help us by using that brochure that was created to either go online and tell us when you see homeless individuals or encampments so we can respond. If we don't know about them, we don't know to come out. We don't have people that are available just to, drive around and look throughout communities. So we really rely on organizations and individuals like all of you to help report those to us. So I would say, please report those and take one of those brochures, call the number, or go online and fill out the form. And then lastly, reiterate, we ask you not to give directly to those individuals, but please give to organizations, and those that is on that brochure as well, an organization that we work closely with that would help us.
I just want to say thank you also. I would echo a lot of what Marcy said. Appreciate you having us here today. Appreciate the Vice Chair inviting us also. And want to reiterate some of what Marcy said, which is that many of our departments operate on a complaint basis. And so we do rely on you to be our eyes and ears. So if you see something, say something. And code compliance is complaint-based. So is environmental services responding to nuisance complaints. So we do need you to take the time, if you have it, to go ahead and report those concerns to us so that we can address them early. A lot of addressing encampments is not just outreach, but it's also early action so that they don't grow to an unmanageable space and size, I guess, very quickly. And so then it's harder for us to unwind that sometimes. And so if you can report early, it's really appreciated, and we'll make sure and get out there and do that outreach and also investigate those complaints. Thank you.
Well, great. I want to thank all of you for showing up and showing these Maricopa County employees that we have the best district and Sun City folks are the greatest. Thank you. God bless you.